Welcome to The Main Thing. I'm Evan Maindonald. Today I'm interviewing one of the legends of the HMO world, Mike Frisby. Mike, could you just introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah. So, Mike Frisby, and I've been investing in property and developing property now for over 12 years. So I've had a bit of a journey through that time, but I've been really focusing on HMOs over the last few years. I felt the market is really ripe for some good, high-quality HMOs. So I have three parts of my business, which is Branking Developments and Investments, which does invest in high-yielding stock across the south and east of England, a lot on the south coast in Portsmouth, but I do invest across the southeast. And we also do some developments, although at the moment we're more focused around the HMO co-living space. I also have a lettings agency called Viva Living, which helps me manage mine and other landlords' properties. We specialise in HMOs, but we do manage across the board all type of residential property. And then more recently I've moved into helping other investors really get going in the HMO space and really accelerate their journey and help them build portfolios through training them up into understanding this space.
Okay, thanks for that. One of the things that I'm really interested in understanding with people is how they got started in what they're doing and how they got to where they were. Yeah, because I think those journeys that people go through, I hate the phrase property journey, so I've deliberately not used it, but I think that journey that people go through is something that somebody who's starting out in property can learn a great deal from. Obviously everybody takes a different path, but I think if you can gather the threads from of the paths that different people have taken, you can learn a lot about how you can improve what you do, and you can get ideas about what you could do in development. So you and I first met on a panel at an Auction House London event, and I think we both had the same feeling when we left that panel, which was that we were the only two people on the panel who really knew much about property development. And so I had been wanting to interview you for a long time. So Mike, I'm really interested in understanding, how did you get started in property?
Yeah, I just always knew property was a good investment strategy. It was something I was always intrigued in, but it kind of started before that, which was, as a kid, I was always entrepreneurial. I always wanted to run my own business. So there was a big drive about being in control of my own destiny, running my own business, and I didn't fit within the corporate world. I always felt, that's where I was before I started investing in property. So while I was there, I was trying to research. It took me years to work out how do I do this property thing? How do I do this? And it was kind of before internet and that kind of stuff, so there wasn't masses of information around. And then I started investing, attended a couple of investment shows and started investing, and it all snow-rolled from there because it allowed me to leave the corporate world and run my own business.
It's funny actually, because that thing about being in the corporate world, and also in the days before the internet, is exactly the same experience that I had. It was, you couldn't work things out in the same way that you can.
Yeah.
You had to try and find somebody who knew about that thing that you were doing. And it was quite difficult because you couldn't connect with people in the same way that you can today. I mean, I don't know about you, but that sort of transition from a world where you had to know people to get things done to a world where you can just about learn everything that you need to know by looking on social media or looking on the internet is a slightly odd one. And actually I'd be interested in your thoughts about how that's affected the way that you do business.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it accelerates. I think everything moves so much quicker because of it. Yeah. Certainly I would say my initial journey was very slow and ponderous by today's standards of change and knowledge transfer. And I think it's a real interesting one, how that happens and how connectivity happens now. And, being out there, your name being known, people get to know you, who you are before you've almost met them, I think, sometimes on the social media.
But you must have had this experience too. It was weird for me the first time it happened, when somebody came up to me and said, "Hi, Evan," and I had no idea who they were, and they started talking about what I was doing. I'd never met them before. It was just odd that somebody that I'd never met knew that much about me.
Yeah. The first time that happens, I still find it a little bit odd when someone, especially when it's about, "Oh, how was your holiday?" And I was thinking, how do you know I went on holiday? And then I forget, of course, being, it's all over the social media, but you just get used to that. And the problem is, I also find is, of course, they know who you are, but you have no idea who they are.
Yeah, somewhat.
And sometimes they're like, they're expecting you to, and I'm thinking, are you going to say your name? Are you going to say who you are?
Yeah.
So you're sort of left there, sort of hanging, hoping that they actually introduce themselves, or have you met them before as well? Because, if you attend a lot of networking events, obviously you might have met a few people and you might be meeting them again. But
this is the risk of being famous, Mike.
Well, I wouldn't quite say I'm famous, but...
You're famous to me.
Yeah. Well, it's funny,
but you are very well known in the HMO world and in the property world. I think if I thought of 3 people that were, the names in HMOs, it would be you, Stuart Scott, and Rick Gannon. Those were the other 3 names that would immediately come to my mind. So, in terms of profile, in my mind at least, you're up there.
Yeah. I think it's a concerted effort, in terms of doing that, because it helps the business. It helps the business not because I'm trying to massage my ego and tell everybody this is what I'm doing, but in these days, as we've been talking previously about things like crowdfunding, investment, finding opportunities, it really does make a difference in terms of actually being out there and things coming towards you. We've obviously connected almost on that level because we were asked to be on a panel because we were both sort of known and being out there, kind of put ourselves out there in front of other people in a way.
You two have sold yourself over the internet.
Do you know what? I was very, very slow to get onto social media.
Me
initially.
too.
It wasn't my natural who I am. Getting out there. I'm not like, oh, come and have a look at what I'm doing, so show off. But I realised it was part of my business, and also more importantly, I think I realised it helped other people, and I realised it helped me connect to other people. And for me, it's the key thing really is when I help other people is the bit that I love the most, which is why I've moved into helping more people, because after this interview, actually, I'm off to see someone who I've helped and his project, and he's doing an open house and getting the local council round, and we chatted about doing a big event to make a big splash. So that he could do more in the area and the planners get to know him and those kind of things. And it's those kind of things. It was when you really can make a difference to someone else. It just that impact is what I'm after really. What I can that's the bit that really is motivating for me at the moment.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I think we all like to talk about what we do, and if you know a lot about something and you've done it for a long time, you're sitting on a lot of value. And sometimes you don't realise how much value you're actually sitting on. And actually, I think the internet provides a platform that didn't previously exist for people to share what they know and to provide value to other people and broadcast that in a way that didn't exist when you and I started out in property.
Absolutely. And I think one of my skills is actually taking all of this information and making it understandable. So I think one of the things that I've done in the HMO world is split up all of these complex things of, this part of the council look at it this way, this part of the council look at it this way. Oh, we all hear about commercial financing. Oh, well, what about all this licensing business? And there's lots of different pockets. And it's just, I think that's one of my skills is just literally breaking it down into little components and chunking it out. That's how my brain works a little bit, I think.
So, am I right in saying that you have developed a process that you use to create HMOs, run HMOs, and that your training business is about sharing with other people, that process with other people, helping them learn how to do it?
Helping them through that methodology, yeah, definitely. It's helping them on their property investment journey, taking them from...
You said property journey.
Yeah, I know, well, it just comes out, doesn't it? It just comes out. Well, but it is a journey, isn't it?
It is.
Life is a journey.
I said it too. It is.
Yeah. No, but life's a journey too, and it's about having fun along the way. And I think that's the thing that that has really drawn me to this area. It's not, oh wow, I want to make. It's making an impact and having fun while doing it, and that's the key. But it's breaking it down to simplify so that people understand it, and consulting along the way really, and giving that support and advice. So they keep the momentum up, because when you're new, you're nervous about, am I going to make this mistake and that mistake? And of course, in property, mistakes can be very expensive.
There's something that I say about development, and that's development as detail. And you will know that there are an enormous number of things that you come across on a property development project, even a very simple one, that if you haven't done it before, you couldn't even anticipate.
Yeah.
And so I think the value of the knowledge that can be shared by people who have been there and done it is immense, and I do find that also very rewarding. It's something actually that I have found, and I don't know, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this point, that if I have to explain something to an audience, it actually makes me think the process through, and I realised that maybe I didn't know as much about some pieces of it as I thought I knew, and I actually become better at it because it forces me to sharpen up in those areas where maybe I had a deficit of knowledge.
Definitely, isn't it? They say, to master something, you need to train something. And that takes you to the next level of knowledge. And I think it's true. I think it's true. And I get the people who work with me to start talking to other people about stuff so that they sink in as well.
That's a really interesting idea, to actually get your staff to train people. That's a good.
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, you're nicking all my stuff now.
That's why we're here.
But that's the point of the conversation.
but it's about sharing things, isn't it? So.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's how we all learn. So, definitely, it's just an interesting. I just find that whole thing rewarding and a nice part.
But actually, Mike, it's one of the reasons that I enjoy spending time with people like you, because we bounce ideas off each other. We learn from one another, and I think if you spend time with people that are operating at a high performance level, and you will increase your own performance.
Definitely. I mean, it's who you surround yourself with.
Environment dictates performance.
Environment dictates performance, definitely. And as you say, you learn and you can rapidly increase your knowledge and the people you're around. And that's the point of groups, isn't it? That environment is, and I've been creating that for the HMO environment. To the whole, let's get a hot house, and everybody part of it is really enjoying that hot house of environment of like mastering that segment of the property market, and it's not easy, and it's to do what we're trying to do, which is recycle your cash so you can keep investing, because these guys have got big ambitions. They're not coming along just to buy one or two. They want they want to build a good portfolio for solid wealth. And it's also interesting to see all of their motivations as well, because it's not always what everybody thinks, to live the lifestyle. Most of them, actually, it's about having a platform to do other things, whether it's their interest or to give back, or, there's some really interesting stuff going on. And I always believe you should understand what's driving you, why you're doing it all, because that pushes you through the hard times, because, as you said earlier, every deal has something that you have to push through.
Yeah, something you haven't come across before. Usually more than one thing.
More than one thing often, isn't it? Yeah. So you learn on every deal, and if you can impart that and help people out, or warn them off that this might happen, I think that's very valuable. And I think people underestimate how valuable that is. Yeah. And I've had various people help me through my times, and just generally, as you say, just generally talking to people who are more experienced or as experienced as yourself. Really helps, or experienced in a different field, and you share that and then can collaborate. Often partnerships are a key point as well.
I agree. And I think you touched on this just a minute ago, but I don't think it's necessarily about depth of experience, because everybody has had a different experience and everybody's had a different life experience. I think you can learn something off everybody. It's not necessarily about how old you are or how long you've been doing it. Different people have different approaches, and different people have different ideas.
You can definitely learn off everybody, and I do find that people go networking. It's trendy at the moment, isn't it? Property networking, go to property networking, and I find people sometimes they dismiss other people because they might not look initially. They don't look, but quite often I find in the property world they're the people with the gems, or they're the people with the money. You got
to watch the quiet ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So always treat everybody with respect. Always listen to what they have to say, because you never know, and also one day it all changes. The person who was, you might be asking for help back if they're asking for you. So it never stays still. I've been around for a while, and you see people come and go. Yeah.
No, I agree. And actually, for me, that platform that social media, the internet provides, that enables you to actually give back in a way to help other people learn, is something that I find very motivating and satisfying. And I think my guess is that is, while I'm sure you make money out of your training business, I'm pretty sure that's not what motivates you to do it.
It's no, that's not why I went into it.
Yeah.
It's the reward I get.
Because you could make more money out of doing HMOs,
Well,
I'm sure.
that's why I was delayed in ever getting into it in a big way, because I always kept going, but I'll always make more money out of property than training, probably. You know, it's the way it is. However, what I did is sit down and work through, well, what are the things that really stimulate me? What are the things that I really enjoy doing? And I was just doing some few basic, one of the key things was I was doing an afternoon of commercial financing for HMOs, and we introduced some cheese and wine to get it all flowing, we just all had fun, and everyone used to sit there and just go, wow, this is amazing. And it was because, and you get comments like, finally, I've understood it, and that kind of thing. And I was like, well, what bit of my job do I enjoy the most? It's like these events. Yeah. So that's why I kind of built around that. And again, I've been examining things and looking at things, and you go, well, I could build a big training company. I thought, actually, no, it's the interaction that I'm enjoying. It's not necessarily having a massive training company that I want, like some of these other property training companies. It's having that group of people that I'm helping and interacting and creating that environment and being involved in that. And if I became the MD of a training company, it's just like any other training. I'm losing my purpose again. Yes, I'm adding value and educating people, but I'm losing that interaction with the people that I'm associated with within the training business. So, I'm trying to work out. So I don't want it to be massive. I just want it to be high quality and effective.
So in terms of where you see your business going in the next 3 to 5 years, are you satisfied doing what you're doing, or do you have some ambitions to move it, change it, grow?
Well, what I'll do is I'll continue. Well, I'm going to continue on two fronts, which is what I'll do. I'll continue in the in the property investing space itself. And obviously the property development, and I think there's some really exciting things that are moving in the HMO world with the co-living and all that. So very much making that mark and being part of that, whether it's just by myself or tying up with people. I'm still working that through, but I think there's some good, exciting things that can be done in that space, and I want to be part of that. But also continue with the whole property, education and helping people out, and putting more out there, giving back and putting more out there on that side. That also gives me,
and I guess
there's good buzz.
There's an opportunity to scale that content delivery side of things
via
the internet.
Via the internet, and I think there will be, again, we'll probably be doing that. But one thing I like doing is having a high impact on people. And, sort of almost being on the board, you think of people on the business and me being on the board and coming in and saying, right, okay, from my experience, bang, bang, bang. And I was sat down with a guy who's in a prop tech area that I'm investing in the other day in the HMO space, a company called Our Deal Flatmate. And, we were just chatting, and he was like, I was just firing ideas at him, and he was like, oh, wow, and I could, and that's great, because then I'm part of that journey, but I'm just putting in I'm kind of, that's the point that I'm on the board. So I call my group boardroom style, because we're a board, and I'm there sort of overseeing as the CSO and non-exec, kind of like, what about this, what about that, what about this? And that's the bit I enjoy, just, put me in there and let me create havoc or structures, really, to be honest.
I understand that, and I guess what you do is you set up an environment where people can interact, and that becomes a high performance environment in and of itself. And I suppose that those groups actually, people end up working together on things and cooperating.
Yeah. And that's the idea. And as we grow and as we do more groups, we'll get all the groups together, and hopefully people will want to stay part of that environment that continues. And we've just got to, and that's the other thing, is that if we ever, it's very much focused around at the moment around HMOs. So then we'll have a leading impact in the marketplace on HMOs, and people who come through that group will be part of it. And I'm sure there's going to then be some collaboration in terms of, the services and everything that you provide. That, if things are similar in different cities, that people are moving, you've gone to university in Leeds and you come down and want to live in, your way, Gloucester, we can help with that move. And there's
so you're creating a network of,
so we'll have a network
of Frisby
vision,
HMOs?
The bigger vision is that everyone's doing their own stuff, and it will be their businesses, but there will be some form of collaboration. The bigger vision is not just, we'll educate, and off you go. It's being part of a group that we are going to be at a big end to all of this. So
that's really interesting, and it's interesting because, for me at least, it touches on the evolution of the way that we live. This
Absolutely.
whole concept of of living as a service or
Absolutely.
co-living. And I guess if you can deliver living as a service, and you can deliver in multiple geographic locations, you have an offering that maybe is going to differentiate yourself from somebody who just owns a couple of properties.
Yeah, but often people come up to me and say, aren't you worried about saturation? No, because with the vision that I've got, I'm going to be leaning beyond other people where other people are. You know, if you've got a small portfolio, yeah, maybe. But with part of what we're doing, we're going to be creating something bigger. And if we need to compete, you know, we've got the build to renters coming in. And if we need to compete with those guys, you know, who've got some volume and money, we're kind of like the collab of all the little guys together, coming together. And if we need to develop some form of app, or if we need to develop this kind of service that can go into different places, we'll have that reach, and we'll have the funding. You know, potentially it's like, well, if I had to fund a new app to do something to automate my business, that will cost me a lot of money. But if I could spread that cost against, you know, everybody who's got, you know, 100 rooms within the portfolio, you know, each one, and then you've got quite a few of those, people can contribute, and we're you know, so it's collaboration is going to win the day. And so
it's Collaborative CoLiving Network.
Yeah, that's where we're heading. So you know, there is a vision behind it. There is a vision behind it. You know, I'm feeling it as we go through, because this is the first you know, the first group that we're running. But I'm loving running it. They're loving being part of it. Hopefully, you know, we're all going off to this new project, you know, that's the point. Have a bit of fun, and being a visionary entrepreneur. You know, an entrepreneur is from the day dot. Oh, you always follow visions, don't you? So
you follow visions.
You know,
you follow ideas, and
yeah.
I think every entrepreneur that I meet has a head full of ideas.
Absolutely.
But what they also have, the successful ones, at least in my estimation, is a dedication and focus and persistence that allows them to follow through on one of those ideas. And I think one of the things that often catches entrepreneurs is that they try and follow too many things.
Yes.
The ones that get it right are the ones that have sufficient focus on one thing to actually succeed, and a consistent strategy. Now, I'm really interested by your collaborative co-living network. It's a really interesting idea, and it's a way of developing your business through partnerships, which is actually sort of fed by the training business. And if you love doing that, it's easier to see how that could be a success.
Yeah, and it all comes in together. So I don't think I'm spreading my focus too much. And I think that's one of the things I like about it, because it has quite there's a broadness underneath it, which as an entrepreneur you like, and those challenges, but also it all comes up to some point that is a focus and clarity.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, the successful ones, entrepreneurs, are the persistent. You know, you're persistent, doggedly persistent, aren't you? I think. Yeah. And as a property person, I always say that to everybody: is like, you have to be persistent, because every property you buy or deal or whatever you like, development, has its problems, and you have to push through it.
There's two words for it. One is stubborn, the other one is tenacious.
Yeah.
You have to work out which one you are. You only get to know in retrospect.
Yeah, it depends who you're talking to, whether it's your partners or whether it's your business associates.
yeah, that's true. But we touched on co-living earlier, and for me, the thing that's most interesting about the HMO space is its evolution into a new form of living, a different form of living, the delivery of what is in essence a large-scale HMO model, where you have high-quality shared services, where you might have 300 or 400 or more rooms in a development, sort of following the model of student accommodation that could potentially create a yield-based commercial investment that you could sell to a pension fund or something like that. I'm really interested in your thoughts about how you think that space is going to evolve in the next, say, 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, I think it's going to take off. I mean, there's some issues, there's some hurdles to overcome, and one is planning, because planners, they can't get their head around this yet, and therefore to get the planning for these spaces is quite difficult at this point in time. Well,
actually, I mean, outside London, I would say yes. In the recent London plan, and I don't know if you know, maybe you do, but there was a new class introduced for co-living, because I know people previously had to get student-let consents, student living consents, and then modify them by changing the conditions. So I think that will help. But you're right, it's not well understood by the planners at the moment.
And I think that's the hurdle. Yeah, it'll come, as like all these things do, with the right lobbying, the right changes, and now with the involvement of the London plan, I think is brilliant. So, you know, it's definitely coming on the horizon. So I think it will filter through. But there's also an interesting point, because everyone who starts to work through co-living and gets then excited by these big blocks and everything. But, there's also been some surveys by some other people how some people find that impersonal. And I think there's a role for the smaller space still too. And that's where I think, for me, I'm going to continue with a mix. I want to get bigger and bigger, some bigger scale, because again, as a businessman, doing one large is it doesn't have to be 10 times, 10 smaller ones versus one large. It's easier to do the one large, and you can do some exciting things. But likewise, I want to keep tapped into what I'll call my consumer, my tenant, to see what they want. And sometimes they like the smallness because you become better friends and better connected within the house. And I think that's the other thing with co-living, is that, this generation is deemed to be more disconnected than any other, despite social media. And it's because of social media that they feel alone and all of these kind of things, isn't there? So I think that is very critical to help with society as a general whole, that we're all getting a bit more lonely, and singles living together and all of these kind of things.
It's interesting you should say that. There are two views on that. One is that social media is making us more lonely because we don't meet real people anymore. The other one is that we have more friends, we just connect with them in a different way, and they live in different places. I don't know which one is true. I mean, for me, probably the latter, actually.
I think you have more friends, you know more people, but you don't have a deep connection, which is the bit that is then missing, I think, sometimes. Although it does help with that, if someone comes up to me and they feel they know me, as we go back to the beginning of the conversation.
That's my point. You can make connections with people, for better or for worse. You can make connections with people that do think in a similar way to you, or are more interesting for you. So perhaps you do end up with deeper or better relationships as a result.
Yeah, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer with all of this, is there? And I think it's different people operate it in different ways and do different things. And I think one of the biggest problems is perception versus reality. Sometimes isn't always there.
Yeah.
That people see. I mean,
the media take the scare stories, and everyone's perception ends up being that whatever that bad story is about is what's happening everywhere. The positive stuff's not interesting because it's not dramatic. So yeah, I think that's a problem to some extent.
Yeah, but I mean, no, I like the social media world because that makes the world smaller. And as you say, if you want to search someone out, you can do, and you can connect with people far easier through these things. You become noticed to significant people that you would probably struggle to get hold of through the social media, I think, and therefore you're less removed from those. So we came back to how does it help your business? Well, that's how you can do that, can't you? Connect with people. You say, oh, well, I like him, I see him, I know what he's up to, and you can connect with them.
You can get a really good idea what people do, and you can form a much better judgment as to whether or not there's synergy between what you do and what that person does. I mean, you can find someone who does a very specific thing.
Absolutely, and when you get known in a space, people come to you and say, well, look, I've seen what you've been up to for a little while, and you go, oh, okay, you've been sitting in the wings watching me, and is there any collaboration between us? And then you hopefully sit down.
That thing, for me, is one of the keys. You bring yourself to the attention of people who wouldn't otherwise even know you existed, and opportunities land on your plate that you otherwise wouldn't get.
You wouldn't have thought of yourself, because they're the one who's thinking of the opportunity, because they can see what you do. Because you can't create everything yourself, as much as we all think we can. And as a typical entrepreneur, I do. I think it all stems from me, but it doesn't.
Stubborn or tenacious?
Yeah. But it doesn't, does it?
Yeah,
and the better entrepreneurs are the ones that embraces everybody else's ideas, but gets them in or makes them happen, or as you say, create those opportunities that you didn't know there was one, and allow them to land on your desk. So absolutely, and that's the key thing, isn't it, of getting out there and being out there and talking a bit about what you do. And that was the switch for me, was from being a private person into sort of more of onto social media, was, well, how can I impact on other people and help other people, I guess, is probably where it came from. And bit by bit I've got used to it, and I still get ribbed by my friends, what Mike did this on the property stuff, and it's like, I've had to turn you off. There's so much property stuff and all of this
so do
stuff.
I. But actually also, some of my friends say to me, I saw that video that you did. It was really interesting, and I find that really rewarding, because to me it's just, it's just nice to hear that somebody's actually getting value out of what I'm doing.
Because they rib, and then you'd be out. You'd be out with a few people, and then one of them will sort of like, come up to you, and you sort of say, about this property investing thing.
Exactly.
It's like, it sounds quite interesting. It's also quite interesting. Yeah. And again, it's like some of the videos. I saw your video when you were doing this, and you go, yeah, okay. That's cool. But it's what I'm trying to do some more. But it's always fitting it all in and everything. But yeah.
A good entrepreneur is always busy. That's the challenge we all have. Mike, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you. I think ever since we met on that panel, I've been wanting to do something like this. So thanks for taking the time to come down here to our development in Hythe.
Oh, it's a brilliant development.
Yeah,
enjoyed seeing what you do as well. Learn what you do.
Exactly. It's been a real insight for me into your business, where it's going, and what you're doing. And you and I will certainly be having more conversations, I'm sure. So thank you very much, and thank you all for listening. This is The Main Thing by Maindonald.